Hello, 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 and welcome to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we're happy to be with you today on this beautiful Wednesday morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you happen to be. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Be sure and let us know you're here. Say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from and like us. I feel like we have an inferiority complex. Like us.
Please like us.
Please like
Oh,
us.
tell us you like us. Don't just tell us
And
you
tell
like
your friends that you like us.
us.
Yeah, anyway, do the thing that all of us social media people ask you to do. All right. And for those of you who may not know, Gil and I are a married couple living in two different parts of the world, sometimes worlds apart, and yet only a few hours away by plane. So I am
Oh
in
my goodness.
Southern California.
And I am in lovely New Mexico, Albuquerque.
Did you
And
have to
it
look out the
is
window
a
to make sure?
warm one. Yeah, well, because I don't always remember where I am. I mean, we
Yeah,
travel a fair amount.
it's welcome to my world. And people are always like, "Where are you?" I'm like, uh, I'm in Carlsbad. Yeah, it's true. It's crazy but true.
Yeah, we're supposed to hit like 96 today.
Well, crazy enough, apparently they were having a heat wave up north in
Oh, really?
Northern California, and according to John, it was 90 degrees outside last night in the garden. And
Whoa.
but many people have told me like that it's been in the 80s and things in the day. So the world is doing
It's on fire.
yeah, yeah. So yeah. I mean, but it's so unpredictable. You don't see seasons. Nothing. It's kind of like we're in Alice in Wonderland. Like what's up is down, what's down is up. It's all kind of wacky because like when you were a kid, right? You learned in school to go by the seasons. Okay, school's out. It's summer. It started to heat up. Blah blah blah. Now
Right.
school gets out in May. It's not really summer yet. You go back in August. It's
When it's
still
way
summer.
too hot,
Yeah,
especially if you were in those dang portables.
right.
Um,
It's so true. It's so true. But it's just yeah. But right. I mean, you went back to school in September. It was fall. Like everything
right.
was clearly defined. You had Christmas break. Now you have holiday break, and it's you don't know exactly what holidays. Hi Shay, welcome. We're just reminiscing about the olden days when things were good. No, I'm just kidding. When things were when things were easier to decipher and differentiate. Hi Shay, welcome. Welcome whoever just joined us. I'm betting it's John because
Yeah.
I could feel his energy, his presence. When we were talking about, you know, temperatures and heat waves and what's happening in around the world. So, yeah, it's all very undefined, but I guess that's what we do in this new thought teaching, right? We learn to be in the moment, and all of it just defies time and space and all of those things. So,
Yeah. And, speaking of that, um, it was so fun on Sunday to get to watch the graduation of practitioners at Agape International in California because, both of us have been a major part of that. And we had a friend who was graduating, a particular friend who was graduating with the group. And it was so weird, though, to sit in that energy and to go, how long has it been since we've really been there? You know?
mhm.
Yeah, and for me, realizing that, in fact, this graduation was exactly 20 years after mine. And I'm like, really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
That's crazy. I mean, I was getting ready to start ministerial school at that point.
yeah.
Nuts, man. That's a long time ago.
Yep. Time plays tricks on us. It certainly does.
Oh,
So, Anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome. Bienvenidos. I I feel like, well, I guess I'm having a nostalgic day. I feel like whatever whoever that was that used to be like, I see John, I see Myrna, I see Shay. Have a good day, Shay. Happy birthday, George. And you're like, oh, why doesn't she see me? See, that's where it all started, right? When,
That's right. We were
when
all
they
wondering.
didn't see you, you kept waiting for them to say your name or your happy birthday. And so I know she is. That's what I said. I saw her in the house. Okay, you see,
Because
Myrna,
when you
there you
said
are. You can't hide.
when you said bienvenidos, all I could think of was it's a small world. So that's how far back I went. Um,
There you go. All right. Well, I'm glad you're all here because we want you to start thinking while we finish up this idle banter we do. We're going to ask you what you want us to talk about today on our show. Our show today is Boldly Go. That's the theme. And what is on your mind that you would like us to talk about? So for
boldly go
now,
with.
yeah, yes. What would you like us to boldly go with? And we will chit chat about that. So think about that. And in the meantime, okay, so tell me about your week.
Week was good. Good. I actually got myself officially registered to vote here in New Mexico yesterday uh, for the primary. That was an interesting little adventure. Not difficult, just kind of cool. So been doing a lot of stuff, a lot of work. Um, it's been a good week though. It's been a good week. Uh, I had a good day on Sunday, and I'm excited about this whole project we're doing with music and a great opportunity for bring community together here in Albuquerque. Robyn's been so instrumental in that. Instrumental, that's a pun. It's it's been really fun, though. It's been a good week, so I feel pretty good.
Okay, rule of thumb. I could hear our producer thinking, rule of thumb, if you have to tell us it's a pun,
Well,
I'm good.
what can I say? You know,
I
I
know.
didn't realize it was till I said
Oh dear God. Okay, you're giving Michael reason to pray.
it. Well, that's good. That's good. He shouldn't only pray when he talks to Robert. I mean,
Okay, in my week, did you just ask about my week?
I did. Well, how was your week, sweetie pea?
It was good. It's just busy, like you said. I mean, I actually don't feel like we're apart, except for the fact that we're apart because we're
Right.
doing so many things together. It's just a busy week, and I know they're all busy, and I know I'm always busy and always involved in a lot of things and all of that. But this seems particularly um, huge for some reason.
Well, we got some major stuff happening that we're working on together, and then major stuff we're each working on separately, and it's a lot.
It is a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't want to frame it like it's a lot and we can't do it kind of thing.
Right.
But I mean, it's just and because what came up for me yesterday, and I I don't know if I talked about it somewhere. It might have been on my other show. I don't know where I talk anymore. But people say, I heard someone say, and I've heard people say, I'm so busy by design, and go on. And I thought to myself, well, it's all by design, isn't it? I mean, we're always designing. I'm thinking, okay, so if I'm designing it, I really am not that great an architect. I really need to look at that. And it's not that, I mean, I love everything I'm doing. And I'd like to be, I don't know. I mean, it's not calm, it's not easy, it's not, any of those things. I don't know. But I just, that phrase by design, because I keep thinking, all right, well, let me design it differently, in a way. And and then I get kind of overwhelmed by it. Like I got in our meeting yesterday, like I got overwhelmed with the person and the ideas for people who want to help, because
Mm,
that's just not the way that I would do it. And so
mhm.
it's a constant release, right, of my idea,
Constant, constant.
and so I have, so I mean that's part of, I guess, being a good architect on some level, is either releasing your idea and seeing what the new kids think, or sticking with your idea and knowing that you're building the Sistine Chapel or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So anyway, that's
Yeah, it's somewhere between
that's
don't let
a
anyone to derail you and oh my gosh, you have to go with the flow, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's the overview of my week. So I see that John has joined us,
Hello,
and
John.
looks like there's a lot of people out there that aren't saying hello. So rude. Just kidding. But anyway, we'd love it if you said hello in the chat, and let us know where you're coming, calling, coming, whatever you're doing, where you're doing it. And we're going to go to the good news, because I'm so excited, because we asked you guys, what do you want us to talk about today? And we want you to be thinking about that and to put it in the chat, so that when we go to break, we can come back and have a conversation around that. And our theme today is boldly go. So whatever you give us, we're going to boldly go into. Okay.
All
Oh, I
right.
see Myrna's right on it. Good for you, Myrna. But first,
Okay.
our good news.
Our good news. Wow, fascinating thing I learned today. You know how when you go to the beach and it's a nice sunny day at the beach, and you take off your shoes and you start walking out, and pretty soon you're like, dang, my feet are burning. This is hot.
Mhm.
That's because sand collects and retains heat super well. And so what's been happening in Norway and Finland already, and is that they're creating giant sand batteries,
Wow.
because they can take the extra energy from wind and solar and convert it into heat into the sand, and the sand will hold it for a really long time, and then they can let it out slowly. But it's by the natural process of sand absorbing heat and holding it and then releasing it. I mean, you can go to the beach and it can be windy and chilly and cooling off at night, and you can dig your toes in the sand and it still feels nice and warm. I mean, that's my experience. And so
Yeah.
I thought about it when I was reading this. I'm like, that's fascinating. But what if we really take these things that are already exist, and we turn them into ways to do better in terms of energy, and not destroy resources in the same way. I think it's pretty cool. So I thought that was a very interesting thing. And like I said, they've already implemented this to some degree in Norway and Finland. They got experiments going. So that was my good news. I thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool. That is cool. It's so interesting, because again, it brings me back to, like, you know the concepts of all that we need is within us, like things that have been there forever, and I'm sure we're recreating. I'm sure we're not the first people. I'm sure Egyptians or somebody used sand and did something, miraculous like that with it. It's just wild. That's all.
Well, there's that, and then there's that whole idea that that things, that if we truly believe that there's this power that's creating it all, that nature contains it all, that we, right, then there's that idea that electricity's always existed. We
Right.
just figured out how it worked and how we could work with it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably things like sand and stuff, we thought that was too primitive at some point and stopped using it because we thought it would be cooler to burn fossil fuels and that kind of stuff until we realized that that wasn't such a good idea.
Right.
So anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead. What about you?
Well, my good news story is, I mean, we've probably all heard about Melinda Gates, Bill Gates' former wife, and all the philanthropy she does. But recently, she announced that she's going to begin a new chapter in her philanthropy by committing $1 billion of her personal fortune to assist in welfare programs that support women around the country and around the world. And I thought that was very amazing. She's she's donated. She donates so much. I mean, I always hear stories about her giving different different charities and groups and things like that. But this is really um, a new thing that's just pivotal to her. She said that she has new ideas about the role she wants to play in improving the lives of women and families in the U.S. and around the world. And she's watched difficult years over the past few years of women's rights being rolled back in the United States and around the world. And she wants to use this next chapter to just focus specifically on altering that trajectory of what's been going on. So
Yeah, that is an incredibly powerful place to be, and we all know that the money is just a form of energy. And so therefore it isn't all about money, but money can often bring a huge amount of energy into a project, into a space. And when somebody has it and is willing to give it in that way, how powerful that is.
yeah, and I mean, how fun for her to play on this big field. I mean, because she's got it set up so that like 250 million will start the initiative and go to these small organizations, and then another $240 million in partnerships are going to be offered to like 12 global female leaders, and from like the prime minister in New Zealand, and um, somebody in Afghanistan, an educator for women's rights, and just all different people who will then be able to take it out into the world. And she said, as a young woman, she could never have imagined that one day she would be part of an effort like this. And because she's been given this extraordinary opportunity, she's determined to do everything she can to seize it and set an agenda that will help other women and girls set their goals and do good as well. So, yeah.
That's cool.
It is cool. It is cool. Giving back is so cool. And the truth is, as I know of all the callers we know are here and things like that, we all do good and give our own version of $1 billion worth or $250 million worth. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to be part of a group like this, a conglomerate of people like-minded that are really giving of themselves, and how much more valuable could that be? So yeah. So oh, okay. Yes, John says men need to fully support equality and full parity in all societies. Yep. And don't we know that John does his part? Yes, you do. Yeah, and it's true. It's really being. It's not. I don't think it's excluding men. I think it's just given the opportunities that people have now, and as she said, all that's gone on with women's rights and how much we have to fight for women's rights, even when it's about our own bodies. Men don't have to fight to, to
Get a
do
vasectomy?
exactly. I couldn't remember the vasectomy word, but yeah, you don't have to fight to, for your body, for your rights, for what you want to do with your life. So, all right. Okay.
And
So
Yeah, it's always the question of, when we point one group out, it's like, well, what about? And it's like, well, the reality is usually when we point out a group, it's because that group has been on the short end of some stick.
Right, exactly.
And we're trying to catch them up. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to get it into balance.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful. So we're going to take a break, but if you're going to stay with us, come right back. If you're going to leave, make sure you put in the chat what you'd like to hear us talk about today on the show. And when we come back, we'll be here with or without you and talking about what you brought up. So come right back here in a minute after these words from New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
And we are back. This is Rockin the Love. I am Robyn Rice Olmsted.
And I am Gil William Olmsted, and I'm her husband.
That's your claim to fame. I am her husband.
That's my claim to fame. Yeah. Yeah. Most people are like, "Are you Robyn's husband?" Oh, that's cool.
Well, yeah, it's cool. So, that plays right into our topic. Let's see. I saw that John was asking about the good things of marriage or something. Where is it? John also said, "Happy birthday." Is it your birthday, Gil?
No, but happy birthday to me. Thank you, John. Maybe he was referring to my birthday of practitionerhood or something.
Ah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That thought went away. So John says, beautiful qualities of marriage, what really works. And Myrna said also, okay, I was seeing how quick our producer was. Myrna said also about the control versus release. Nice.
Yes.
Good job.
Yes.
So I think we should combine the two, because I think that some of the beautiful things of marriage have to do with the control versus the release.
Oh, I don't really know how much has to do with control versus release. I think it's mostly just release.
Okay. All right.
Woo! All right. It's okay. It's not bad, John, but thank you.
Okay. Shay is overwhelmed with a major health protocol with shopping and recipes, etc. Rock the self-love. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. Well, I think,
Myrna has it down. The wife is always right. Okay, there you go.
well, there's some truth in that.
There is.
But really, we really staying just focusing on what she said there. I think there's some truth in it also, because I'm not trying to make it a women versus men thing. I'm just talking in generalities. I know that men have these qualities as well, but I think in general, women are much more often tend to go to the love side of things, whereas men go to the how do I fix it and the technical how do I do it side of things. And so I think a lot of times, that's what leads us to the women are always right kind of things.
Well, I would shift it to say that in marriage, generally speaking, when we allow whoever else it is we're involved with to be right, it changes everything. We don't have to be the one who's right. As speaking from experience, then that changes the whole tenor of the relationship, the ability to move through whatever you're going through. So it's releasing the control of having to win, having to be right, having to be whatever. And sometimes that means allowing your partner to be right, period. Whether or not in that moment you really think they're right.
Okay.
Just
I'll
my
take
thought.
it. Just kidding. No, I think that, but I also think so. What John said was the beautiful qualities of marriage and what really works. And I think part of it is really, if you're letting go of the right there, there is no right and wrong and everybody's right. It's really, I think that one of the things that I try to do in our marriage anyway is to really be able to listen from that perspective, that there is no right and wrong, and I know, for example, if we're in the heat of some argument or somebody thinks something wasn't done right or whatever, I don't, I think I go to the four agreements in that, you can't take it personally. And when you don't take it personally and you realize that you're on the same team, then it's just about dissecting what is and figuring out how you can make it work for both of you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think what you hit on right there is really key. And I think we don't realize this in general. We're always on the same team with whoever we're dealing with, in the sense that we're always, we're dealing with the one energy that's showing up everywhere. So we're always on the same team somehow. And doing that, particularly in a relationship, acknowledging that and functioning from that place is hugely helpful.
Yeah, and I think, a lot in relationships, a lot of times it appears that we're fighting to be right or we're fighting to win. And I think that that's part of the thing in marriage for me is I'm not really fighting to win as much as I'm working for for a common ground and for my partner to understand. Mostly what I want is for someone to understand. If you say to me, if you can say to me, oh, I hear you. Oh, I get it. I didn't know that you felt that way. I didn't know you were thinking like that. I never thought of that perspective. And I don't want to do it that way or whatever. I mean, you don't have to agree with it, but I mostly want to be understood. And so for me, that is the key, not fighting to be right or not fighting to win, but trying to find that common ground so that then at least when you move forward, you're moving forward from a place of knowing what's happening for the other person or knowing what you're dealing with. So, if that a certain thing will bring up a certain emotion in me, you might do it differently. You might pre-warn me. You might, you know what I mean? You can just maneuver differently. And I can learn the same things about you if you're not in that space of, I've got to make you understand this. How do you not get this?
Right. And that's, that goes back to the control versus release or surrender or whatever. Because when I'm feeling in that space of wanting to control, that's when I need to be right. And usually that's, for me, it's because I'm out of control somewhere in my life.
Yes, I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
I know. And this isn't the time. Okay.
All right. John says understanding and acknowledging are key.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
And I would say understanding and acknowledging and embodying on some level, because it's like, it reminds me of when I was little and my mom used to, when you're a kid and you're like, sorry, I'm sorry for everything. And my mom one day turned to me and she said, if you're truly sorry, then change it. And I was like, change your behavior, whatever I was doing. I was like, so every time I went to do it, I had to think, I had to consciously think, and I'm sure, I'm sure I did it several more times before I really got that message, because I know even with our teenagers that, they'll leave the milk out or they'll leave the wrappers on the counter and, I can just look at them and look at it and they're like, oh, sorry, and they'll go and they'll change it. But at some point, I'm hoping they will do it on their own. You know what I mean? And it's like, how do you embody it so that if I know I'm making my partner feel bad, if I do something or bring something up, how do I embody going about that a different way and really handle it different, which may involve not doing it in the moment that it's making me mad or it's bringing something up or it's, it's triggering me. It may involve me just noticing the trigger and being able to take a breath and either walk away from the situation or come back to the situation or be able to handle it a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being in relationship for a period of time, the longer the time, for me, the more I trust the other person and I trust the outcomes.
Right.
And so I'm not as tied into whatever the thing is in this moment, seeing it happen or seeing it talked about or seeing it released or whatever it is.
Right.
And we still have differences on how that works, but I just mean there's more of a level of trust of okay, this doesn't feel good, but this is not our life.
Right.
Yeah. So what's Myrna say?
She says, I am learning about letting go of control. It's a continuous practice. I think that when I'm behaving in a controlling way, I am not coming from source and to that place of remembering who I am and who the other person is.
Yeah. Well, when we feel like we have to control, we're basically, in my opinion, we're operating from some level of fear, the fear of not being valued, the fear of not being recognized, the fear of having something fail because it's not going the way we thought it would or should, right? I mean, pretty much that control thing is an expression of our lack of confidence in something. And we don't have confidence in the other persons. We don't have confidence in the way it's going. We don't, and that's not all bad necessarily, but it is something to really notice. It's like, well, why do I want to control this situation? What is it that I am trying to avoid by controlling this situation? Because usually we're trying to avoid something, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm using it in the current situation that we have right now of creating this evening event that's going to be an ongoing event at Gil Center in Albuquerque. And I'm thinking, well, why is it that I feel the need to control it on some level? And I don't really look at it as control, but perhaps it's because I'm in it. I mean, I look at it as doing my job. I look at it as being, and that's another thing. It's like, this is obviously a work situation as opposed to a marriage, but if you're managing something, without having the time and the space and to teach people, or really allow people to know what you want them to do, it's a different beast to give up control.
Right.
I mean, like, we have a team of 3 people that have been there from the beginning. As we let people into this project, they haven't been there, so they haven't visioned with us. They haven't heard our ideas. They don't know everything we're planning to do. So we have to take that time to hear them say the things we've already said, and have it be their idea, which is all right, fine, but we don't have a lot of time for that right now, and so it's like, am I controlling, or and yeah, so I'm thinking, so what's the fear? Fear of failure, obviously. I mean, fear of it not necessarily failure, but it not being all that it could be, or all that I see it as in my head,
right?
All that I know that I can produce, And I mean, I think that's part of the thing as a producer, because I look at myself as a producer of this event. It's making sure that everything's happening. Everything's all departments are firing, which will then bring together the whole, And so am I controlling, or am I doing my job?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting point. I think it's a really valid point. Oftentimes,
Myrna says it.
Okay. Yes, that I can't read it.
She says, yes, that is control versus doing your job. There's a fine line.
There's a fine line. Yeah, it's a fine line. And the question is, and I guess one of the questions for me is the difference between clarity and control as well. Sometimes we're very clear on what needs to be, and we see it and we know it, and that's how it is. And sometimes we just want it to be our way, and that's more of the control thing. We just want it this way. And it's not about being clear. It's about not being willing to trust anyone else, or whatever the deal is.
Yeah. It is a fine line, and I mean, and that's also, why women who are strong in business and are perceived as being a bitch, when they're telling people how to do their job or whatever, and and when in a
Well,
man it's perceived as a strength.
clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a whole thing about the Melinda Gates and supporting women and all of that, because cultures and people have so clearly have such ingrained ideas that are really prejudicial that they don't even recognize.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay for certain things from certain people, even though it's the exact same thing.
Right.
you know
Right. And so, switching out of the marriage topic, Shay says, I'm currently in a control struggle with my landlord. She wants me to do 1 year and 1 month lease, and I only want to do a year as agreed upon. I do not want to move in July. Is that being controlling, or is that planning for my future? She's a control freak, by the way. No judgment, right? No, just so there's that. She's busted through that fine line. Okay, so what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, if you have an agreement that you've already previously entered into, then I hear you. And the other side is, how important is it really? How important is it to you? What difference will it really make in your life? And if that is big, then perhaps it's worth it. But I think a lot of times we end up creating this drama in our life over things that really, if we thought about it, let it go.
Yeah, it's kind of that question of like, where do we dig in and why?
Right.
Right.
Well, like for instance, the landlords and houses and this whole moving thing. When I went to the management company of the house I just left, and I said, here's my 30-day notice, and they said, oh well, you gave it to us 5 days after the beginning of the month, so you have to stay the rest of the month and a full month after that. Not so you don't have to stay there, but you have to pay us for it. And a part of me was like pissed and like, how can that be? And how can you do that to me? And, all of that. And the ultimate thing was, yeah, I was tired last Friday a little bit when I did the final move out. But the reality was I was relatively relaxed the whole time of the moving process, because I had a long time to do it, and I could do it at a pace and do work and do other things in life.
Yeah. And so
I'm just throwing it out.
What'd you say?
I'm just throwing that out as sort of this, would it have been worth it to fight it in some ways? Yeah, but
Yeah, and I think, and that's going back to marriage and this situation. I mean, that's the fine line too. Is like, what's the cost, and is it, how they say, pick your battles. Like, is this the battle you want to fight? I think that in marriage, that happens a lot. Like, how important is this topic, as opposed to something else. And with Shay and that situation, it's like, I'm sure you've sat with it and been with it and meditated and really listened to what's best for you, because who knows, there's always some unspoken thing that we're not privy to on some level, or maybe we are.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I would comment that for myself, I would want to um, I would want to stand for the principle of the thing. You told me I had a year. It's a year. Don't change it to 13 months. That's not what we said. And really underneath that for me would be, I want to teach them a lesson, which is not always the best perspective to come from, and so it's knowing yourself and knowing why this is important for you. What is it really important for you, or is it an expression of something else, and I'm not putting any of this on you, Shay. I'm just talking it through.
Yeah, and I think then the question becomes what's on the other side, because to me, going back to the marriage thing, in marriage, a lot of the times too, when you're talking, you're wanting to teach a lesson, because there's something, or I'm wanting to teach a lesson. Sorry, I got tripped up in my life. Um, there's something that I believe is the right way to do it. And so I'm wanting a person to understand, no, this is the right way, but as we said, and Shay says it's more about boundaries.
Yeah. And being hot in July, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes standing firm in taking care of ourselves in a certain way is totally valid. And it may not have much to do with whatever the situation is. It's just about us needing to take that step for ourselves.
Right. She always has up her hand, and Shay deserves to have her needs met.
Yeah. And that right there is the whole thing. The whole control versus surrender concept, and in a relationship, in a marriage, we run into that all the time.
Right.
Why do you get to say the way it is? It's my turn. I should have my needs met, or maybe I always get my needs met and you don't, Oh, come now.
Go on.
But you know what I mean? Sometimes we function from a place of not even realizing, and perhaps that's a deal with the landlord. She doesn't even realize that she always needs to have that upper hand, but that's her thing. She always needs to have her needs taken care of. I need whatever done. And until we notice in ourselves where we are in that,
right.
We may function from that place as well.
Well, and again, taking the landlord out of the equation and not being about you, Shay, just in general, and also if that I need to have my needs met, to where am I coming from? What am I a victim of? What has gone on in the past, that where have I felt like people have done this to me, and allowing that to be the past and move into it. Again, not saying you, Shay, just for the record, just bringing up the patterns, because I like to look at that in my own life. That's what I do when I'm feeling like, why the hell don't they see me? And then I have to be like, why the hell do you feel like you're not seen?
Right.
What, so it's like, also going back to the source. And I think, I would say in marriage, again, for me, that's a lot of it, because we're all dealing with different stuff. And even when you were just talking about that and how you respond, I think, then we go to love languages, right? So we go to that place of all the things that you think you're doing that should make me feel a certain way. And because it's not necessarily my love language, I'm not that enamored with the fact that you fixed the fence and did the nails and glued the this and the that. And, I'm grateful, but it's not going to make me warm and fuzzy. You know what I mean? I'm not, and I mean, obviously this has changed through the years. I mean, I understand when you know, fix a fence that your reasoning, you're making us safer, and that makes me feel safer and taken care of. So I get it. I mean, I get it, and I think you have to find that balance to adjust to, I have to adjust from the fact that a day trip to the spa with you and being in the jacuzzi would have made me feel really happy and really well taken care of, as opposed to that there's now a fence that's got a nail in it that's holding the wood together that was about to fall off that I didn't. You know what I mean? But I mean, so but again, really, it's like what we used to tell couples about in marriage. It's like you're moving in and everybody's got different things in their luggage.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a past that they're coming with in their boxes that they're bringing to the new place. And so how do you learn to not only decode for yourself, but decode on some level with your partner and for your partner and, about your partner. And so, yeah. Shay says, setting boundaries is part of my healing from narcissistic abuse. That's the source.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and we're all healing on some level from our, whether it was our genetic history and ancestry and all of that, or, our grade school teachers or all the people that played parts in our life. And God knows if there's a narcissist amongst them, there's a bigger learning, there's definitely a bigger learning.
Well, I want to just for 1 second hit on the idea of source, and that is remembering where source is. What is source? What's the source of my happiness? What's the source of my well-being? What's the source of my health? What's the source of my money? Is it out there or is it within me? And, and I think that helps us shift a lot of it. I mean, if I'm blaming you for how I'm feeling, then perhaps I'm not dealing with whatever it is that's really going on, because you can't be the source of my pain, if you will. Somewhere it's coming from within me, what's going on. So that's just a thought around that. So
so it's all about, but I think you hit on something, because it really is all about that. And, going back to source. And I know that we say that, and it may sound like an airy fairy thing, but I think it's not only about going back to source as much as it is finding the source within us and our partner, and really being able to stop and pause and be with that concept, and then move from there. Yeah. Marriage is no joke. It's a constant, I think it's a constant reminder of that, as is every relationship we're in.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, no matter what kind of relationships we're in, being in community with other people, however that looks, creates opportunities for us to, what's the thing I always see published, the am I an asshole thing that goes on Reddit, where the person, says, well, this is what happened. Am I the jerk or are they the jerk? I
don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's people write in with what experiences they've had, and like such and such happened, and then they go, and I did this, and so it's like, so then they finally go, well, am I really the jerk here, or was it them? Or people, respond, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, when we think about things that way.
It is, and yet it all leads back to the same place. Love. Love.
Love.
Yeah, it all
Love.
leads back to there, and how much you love yourself, and how much you love others, and especially in what Shay's saying. I mean, in self-healing, like how much love you have to put into really loving yourself and rediscovering that. And then looking at the person across from you and finding that love for them as well. Even if it is your, self-controlling landlord or your ex-partner who's, an asshole, or, whoever it may be, So that's the ticket, y'all, is to rock the love.
Rock
So
it.
keep rocking the love, and we will see you next week right here on New Thought Media. Rock the love, everybody.